don't people don't then get their issues solved. Instead, कई बारी, uh, it becomes worse. So it's something that's really important. We've felt that like if eventually Maharaj Kirpakan, we're trying to make a branch of the Gurdwara Pabna Chao in Edmonton. If that eventually happens, uh, we're looking to provide counseling services that would be within the data of Gurmukh through Gurmukhs, right? So that could be something where we can all connect together and help out, especially Ranjini and yourself. That would be really something that'd be great seva for the community.
And yeah, that would be amazing. And um, Darshanko uses a lot of she's on the chat, so she will hopefully elaborate. But she uses a lot of the kata and the principles that Basa used to teach in her therapy, and she's got really good results. So hopefully, at some point, she'll do some research into it as well to show its efficacy in treating mental health conditions and conflict within the household and all of those types of things.
ठीक है बहुत बढ़िया कृपा. So it is 10 o'clock my time. Should we start or?
And
Okay, so Guru Rup Guru Pyare Sat Sangat Ji, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Maharaj ne kirpa ਕੀਤੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ satsang ਦੀ ਘੜੀ ਬਖਸ਼ੀ. Maharaj has blessed us this opportunity to do satsangat, where Maharaj tells us in Gurbani that within sangat, when we enter a congregation, we learn about our mind, about our body. Maharaj says, Hom mantan khoji pal palai, kyun pyara pritam mile meri mai. Mil sat sangat khojda sai vich sangat har prabhu asajiyo. That in this life, we're trying to reach our true self or understand our true self, figure out where we came from, learn about the Lord, our root, our origin. And when we enter Sangat, Sangat is like Satguru's, the true Guru's classroom, where Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, their teachings lead us to self realization, realize what our mind is about, what our mind actually is, and then where within our body we can find that nine treasure nam, that divine word, which leads us to becoming one with our origin, our mool, our root. So all that khoj, that search happens through satsangat. When we enter sangat, it's actually a blessing. Maharaj says कि जिस पे आकर पाल ते सत्संग मिलाया, कहो नानक गुर जगत तरaya. That whoever Maharaj Paramatma shows compassion to, they bless them attendance in satsangat, in true congregation. And using congregation by that method, Guru Sahib uh, has our minds cross the Pavsagar, the ocean of fear that our mind is constantly caught in, all these thoughts that we have internally that basically bring our mind down into anxiety, depression, etc. All these thoughts that bog our mind down. Where we have thoughts, that entire area is called the Trigun, whether it's at Rajogun, where we're thinking about Asha, Abhilasha, Mansama, and Trishnama, where we're constantly thinking about work, study, business, etc., how to put food on the table, basically our economics. And then we have Tamogun, where lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment come in, all the negative qualities, negative thoughts that our mind comes into. And then we have one positive aspect of the Trigun, which is Satogun, where our mind comes into compassion, humility, contentment, commitment, truth, values of love, positive values that our mind then encompasses that Satogun. Through Satogun, we uh, going through Satogun, when we start to meditate, we rise above the Trigun and eventually enter our true home, which is outside the Trigun, which is outside Maya. So that path that goes from Rajogun to Satogun is known as the path of live, the path of love, the path of dharma. It's the path of saints. And it is the path that then leads us to our true home, where our mind is constantly stuck between Rajogun and Tamogun. That path is known as Tat. That path is controlled by the five passions inside: lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. They pull around our mind between Rajogun and Tamogun, and our mind being on that path of Tat, and it's called Tat, that path leads our mind to the transmigration cycle of life and death, birth and death. So we come back over and over again into this world of Maya in different forms. So our main mission in life is to become one with Wahiguruji, to merge into such, to basically become one with our origin, from where we all came from. That Prakash, that light, the ultimate truth known as such in Gurmat, which was always here, always will be here, and will always continue to be here. Once everything vanishes, there's only going to be one such Paramatma. So our mind, in its mission in life, as it treads upon this path of live, it has to realize that this is its chance. This is our opportunity. यही तेरा अवसर ए तेरी बार कट पीतर तू देख विचार, that this is your opportunity to meet the Lord, that this physical form that we've been blessed, तेही प्राप्त मनुख दे हुरिया गोबिंद मिलन की ए तेरी बरिया. This is your turn, this is your chance, your opportunity to become one with Vaiguruji. So when we go upon this path, when we are trying to escape Maya, our mind comes into different types of uh, attractions by Kam, Krodh, Loma, Hankar. Lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. Those five passions, under the influence of Kal, Shaitan, they try to bring our mind back down into the Trigun so that we can't escape Maya. Now, Maharaj has taught us that love for Vahiguruji is important. If we want to meet Vahiguruji, we need to have love inside. Sach kaho sun leho sabah jin prem kiyo, then he prab payo. And this is where Sangat comes in. Maharaj says, Tad Sangat bina pau nahi upja pav bin bhagat na hoye teri. That without Sangat, we don't get that true love for Vahiguruji inside. That's why Sangat is so important. And without true love inside, we can't actually do bhakti. It makes it very difficult for us to reach the state that we want to reach, which is to become one with God. So through Sangat, through the teachings of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, we learn that when we're on this, when we're in this plane of Maya, we're to escape using the Shabd, connecting our mind to the Guru Mantra and basically chanting God's name over and over again so that we can dispel all the thoughts that the five thieves bring about inside us. The five thieves, because of our attraction to Maya, they're going to bring about negative thoughts. Maharaj actually says in Gurbani, Panch Dut Chitave Vakara Maya Moka E Pasara, that we've actually had so much attachment to Maya that these five thieves that are in charge here in this area, they come to our mind and they bring inside our mind thoughts that are very negative. Vikar ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ. They'll bring thoughts of themselves, lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, but they're also bring about thoughts of negativity. thoughts that make us discouraged, thoughts that make ourselves uh, pendi kala de vich, like for instance, we don't have that positive spirit inside, that positive sort of feeling inside that we're treading upon the right path. They'll make us doubt ourselves that, oh no, you can't do it. You won't be able to meet God. And they'll bring about this thought inside. The reason they do this is they have a duty to make the mind play because they are being controlled by Kal, and Kal actually has hukum from God that you're going to make the mind play. Kautak Kal e hukum uthaya. So Kal, also known as Shaitan, Kal's duty is to make the mind play, but he's going to use the five thieves to do so. So Kal will always try to use one obstacle or another in our path upon live to try to escape Maya. And such is the thoughts of negativity that we have. So when we're treading upon this path, a lot of times there's people that will say, I just can't do it. Mera man jehda tikda nahi. I just keep having thoughts over and over again. And they get discouraged and then they get hopeless. So the thing is that Maharaj has taught us in Gurbani that these five thieves are going to try to stop us from this path. They're going to try to lead us astray from the path of live. So that all we do is stick between the paths of Tat, which is Rajogun and Tamogun. So, one, Maharaj teaches us that if we sort of discard the hopes and desires that we have for Maya and instead install within us just the hope to meet God, that helps us a lot because then we don't have so much bondage of our mind to Maya. That's why Maharaj says in Gurbani, Asa andesa, band parana mehal na pave frit bagana, that our mind, being connected to the air, it comes into asa andesa. Uh, as as actually means hope. Niras means hopeless. Andesa is basically saying anxiety here. And our mind comes into different desires, wants, hopes, Trishna in this world of Maya. And when we're connected with the air, the mind that wants to go inside its true home, it can't because the connection with the air keeps pushing our mind outside into this world of Maya. And we can't turn our surti inwards. Then Maharaj tells us, Asa mansa sagal tyage jagte rahe nirasa. That the avastha that we want to get to is where we get rid of asa and mansa. Asa, again, hope. Mansa is basically wants, desires that we have. Asa mansa sagal tyage jagte rahe nirasa. And basically don't have any desire of the world or hopes on the world. Now, the ask that we want is on God. The hope that we want is to meet Vaheguru. And Maharaj says, Tajo Syanap Surjino Simro Har Har Rai Ek Aas Har Man Rakho Nanak Dukh Param Pau Jai. Uh, we first have to get rid of our Syanap. Syanap means our basic cleverness, how we think by our own mat that we can tread upon this path just by uh, using our own man-made or mentally made instructions instead of following what Guru Sahib says. Rajul Syanap Surajino, Simro Har Harai. So we are to meditate upon the Lord in accordance to the teachings of Gurbani. Ek aas har man rakho nanak dukh param pau jai. And if we have that one hope in mind, which is to meet God, then our pain, our param, our disillusion, that all starts to disappear. Then Bhagat Ravidas ji in Gurbani says, they say that we've been on this path of life and death, birth and death for a long time. बहुत जन्म बिछड़े थे माधो ये जन्म तुम्हारे लेखे. That there's been there's been many countless lives that we've gone through, and this life that I have now, because now we have that knowledge, is committed to you. So the Bhagats, devotees, committed their lives to Vaheguru Ji. बहुत जन्म बिछड़े थे माधो ए जन्म तुम्हारे लेखे कह रविदास आस लग जीवो चिर प्यो दर्शन देखे. That we are to live with hope that we are going to meet God, because that's our aim in life. When we have that hope inside, what we're doing is we're uh, going for a long game. This asa and mansa, basically as or asa, that means hope. And what this hope is usually a long-term want, something that we're going to work towards, a long-term goal. And mansa is usually those desires that are a bit short-term. On this path of spirituality, of meditation, we're playing the long game. We know that we have to meet God, and this game is a part of our entire life. At what point Vahiguruji is going to do kirpa upon us and bless us, his vision, his darshan? We don't know. But when we keep continuing upon this path, when we keep going upon this path, what happens is that we get closer and closer to our end goal, which is to merge with the divine Lord. So in Gurmat, Maharaj teaches us that this is our life's purpose. This is the long game. Maharaj teaches us कि पत परवाना पिछे पाइए तो नानक तोलिया जापै. That whether we have the parvana of Nam or not, we'll find out at the end. My father-in-law used to say, like, for instance, there was a time that when they were doing prachar, someone came with some picture of theirs and wrote the words Brahm Gyani underneath. And my father-in-law, Paisa Paiseva Singh Ji Tarmala, he saw the picture and he's like, this Gurmukh made a mistake. He's like, he should not have written Brahm Gyani there. He said that until our last breath of air that we receive, we don't know what we are. As Guru Sikhs, we are to remain humble and continue upon this path and live our lives as the Sikhs of our Guru. And when we are playing that, uh, aiming for that long goal of ours to meet the Divine Lord, and we're playing the long game, basically, we don't stop in between. We continue till our last breath. We don't know at what point Maharaj is going to have us merge with them. The day we get to merge with Vahiguruji, between now and whenever our last breath is, that day we become Jivan Mukt. We are liberated while being alive. That's the basic avastha that we want. Because in life, if we become Jivan Mukt, that living is much different than the normal world. Our mind is always at bliss, always in Anand. Whereas when we're going upon this path, sometimes our mind comes down, becomes negative. Sometimes we become positive, and we keep going through these cycles, these waves. Once one becomes Jivan Mukt, then their mind is basically in ecstasy all time, in Anand. So to stop our mind from falling into this trap of negativity that the five thieves bring about is that when we're doing bhakti, when we're doing similar, we need to take things one step at a time. That, for instance, we know that we're going to focus on the Guru Mantra. And taking one step at a time, we need to train our mind to learn to have that long goal in mind, but just look at what Waheguruji gives us so far. One, if we don't know, we should note that first and foremost, Waheguruji has done kirpa upon us already by giving us this human form. Then Maharaj has done further kirpa upon us by blessing us birth during the time when we have Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji leading us upon this path through Gurbani. And then they bless us with true congregation. Remember that jis pe aakar paal te satsang malaya. Whoever Maharaj shows their compassion to, they're the ones that actually do sangat. They're the ones that come into true congregation. These are blessings that Maharaj has given us. And when we realize that these are blessings, our mind becomes thankful. We thank Waheguruji for everything they've blessed us with. Then, when we come into Sangat and we're changing our life around, we're practicing spirituality, we're practicing chanting the name of the Lord. And Maharaj actually tells us, So naam japay jo jana tod pavai, that the only person that actually will chant your name is the one that you are pleased by. So if we're upon this path and we're meditating upon the Lord's name, that means that Waheguruji has blessed us that because for whatever reason they're pleased with us. We don't know why they're pleased with us, but what they're doing is they're trying to save us. That's why Maharaj says, मुक्त पे साध संगत कर तिनके अवगुण सब पर हरिया तिनको देख पे कृपाला तिन भव सागर तरया.
I'm going to zoom in.
Uh,
That's okay. You can sit.
when we enter congregation,
I was going to say it's been a long time.
Maharaj blesses us that
Yeah.
us congregation so that they can get us to cross over the Pav Sagar.
Yeah. Sure.
So there's just a bit of noise. Sorry, if you can mute your mic, that'd be nice. So Maharaj blesses us true congregation so that basically uh, we can cross over the Pav Sagar. That's Maharaj's kirpa. So when we start to count what we've been given, our mind becomes thankful. And when our mind is thankful, then we look towards how we're going to progress upon this path. If we think about how we're doing abhyas, how we're trying to go into our true home, the first thing that we learn from Gurbani is that the void, where our mind becomes thoughtless, is our true home, which is known as Sun. Maharaj says, Satgur te paye vichara sun samad sache kar bara. That our true home is Sun, the void, where our mind becomes thoughtless. So when we're taking things step at a time to train our mind from always being to always being in a hopeful state from being hopeless, we want to think about our practical spirituality journey that we're making, what Waheguruji has already blessed us, and how we're going about this path. When we start to meditate, when we start to say why, Guru, why, Guru, and we're coming to a thoughtless state, that is our first step. And when we start to go into that state over and over again, then we again thank Waheguruji for bringing us to that point. Then we're going to try to progress further because Maharaj says, Satgur te paye vichara sun samad sache karbara nanak nirmal naad sabd tun sache ramen naam samainda. So we started entering our home where we become thoughtless. For those that don't know, when you meditate, when you're focusing on the Gurmantar and you're doing Saskara Simanwa, Guru, Awai, Guru, the purpose behind that is to alleviate the thoughts from the mind. Whether they be positive or negative, it doesn't matter. All thoughts, you just want to stop them and then be thoughtless. When we meditate upon the Guru Mantra, and basically we go into this place where basically with the mind we've become thoughtless, this body, it looks like it's fallen asleep. That is called absorbing into sun, absorbing into the void. Then Maharaj says, Nanak nirmal nad savatun sacharame nam samainda. Within that sun is the divine word, celestial sound, celestial music. When our mind enters that void over and over again, it starts to pick up on those sounds that are within sun. And listening to those celestial sounds, then our mind starts to progress further upon this path. So this is how we take everything step by step. We're going into sun first, the void, and then after that, we're trying to get to a point where we can hear Nam inside. Then the next step after that is hearing Nam is one thing, absorbing into it is another. So you're listening to the Anahad Shabds inside. You start listening to the Sehajatun inside. Start hearing the Nad inside. And then your mind eventually starts to absorb into that sound. That sound resonates from the mouth of the Lord. The Lord is, of course, all prakash form of light. So is their mouth. That point at which the sound resonates from is known as the mouth of the Lord. And Maharaj says, Tera mukh sohava jiyo sahaj tun bani. That the sahaj tun bani resonates from the mouth, the beautiful mouth of the Lord. So when we absorb into that sound that resonates from the Lord, that sound takes us in front of the Lord. And then that's the next step, focusing on the Lord, seeing the Lord. And then the last is our mind merging with Vaheguruji forever. And then that's where we become Jivan Mukta. If we learn to take everything step by step, then we can actually train our mind to not be hopeless. We're looking at that long goal of meeting God. That's our desire, our hope, long-term goal. And in between achieving that and getting to these different points of spirituality through meditation, our mind learns that it's taking another step towards Vaheguruji and it's getting closer and closer. Like Bhai Gurdas ji says in their Vara as well, ke Charan saran gur ek penda jaye chal, Satgur kot penda aage hoye let hai. That when we're taking one step towards Vaheguruji, Vaheguruji is taking 1,000 steps towards us, Satguru is. So eventually comes that point where we merge into the Lord. So if we start to take things step by step, then it's easier for our mind to not fall into negativity. When we start thinking that, oh, I can't become thoughtless, it's not working, or this is not happening, that's where Sangat comes into play. We ask Gursikhs, those that do Abhyas, that this is my issue that I'm having during meditation, and I can't get further than this. What should I do? Those Gursikhs that have gone upon this path, their duty is to meditate upon the Lord themselves, of course, and have others meditate as well. So they help each other. That's where Sangat is like our own community, where basically we get help from each other to tread upon this path, to understand what Gurbani says, so that we can achieve that mission in life. So that's the main way we can take things step by step and make our mind always be hopeful instead of becoming narashavadi, which would be hopeless. Eventually, we want to actually come to a point where we reach nirvana. And in that sense, what happens is that there is no hope or desire anymore. There's no hopefulness, nor is there hopelessness. And Maharaj actually says in Gurbani, Jake aas nahi, niras nahi, chit surat samajai. That the one who is not hopeful, not hopeless, and they've trained their consciousness in this way, tant ko param tant milya nanka bodh pai. That's where the mind then gets to merge into the Lord. That's the avastha that we eventually want to get to. But if we want to get to that point, first we sort of have to uh, close off too many desires that we have of this world and have that one desire in mind, our long-term goal to meet God. Now, listen, like there's there's not anything wrong with having worldly goals for work or whatnot. Uh, I for instance, take martial arts, so I have some goals with martial arts and whatnot. But the thing is that like that's not a bad thing. But the thing is that the goal of meeting Wahiguruji, that goal should trump all. Everything else is below that. Our main mission in life is to become one with the Lord. So this progression and taking everything upon this path step by step, it helps us on this path become more confident as well. Because then we know that we're headed on the right path. We know that our meditation is going properly. For instance, before meeting my father-in-law, Paisa Paisa Vasangi Tarmala, what would happen is that I had done Sangat of many different saints, Gurmukhs. Uh, there was a lot of Gurmukhs like Baba Joginder Singh Ji, Tirwale Sant, uh, Bhai Jeevan Singh Ji of the Khand Kirtan Jatha, a lot of other Gurmukhs as well. Um, Badu Sahib Wale Sant, like a lot of different sants. And from doing their Sangat, uh, I would learn that doing Nam Simran is important. Uh, Particularly, I had actually from Ratwada Sahib Wale Sant, I had learned the actual technique to do some meditation. What would happen is whenever I would meditate, this is a personal story, whatever that at that point when I would try to meditate, is that I'd fall asleep doing it. And then I'd get discouraged in my mind. I'd be like, man, I'm just falling asleep. What's wrong? And I'd be like, I can't progress any further. I just keep falling asleep. This doesn't make sense to me. And then when finally I met Pitaji, they, the first time I met them, I asked them about this. I said that when I meditate, I fall asleep. They explained to me that when you meditate with Guru Mantra or whichever way you're meditating, your thoughts are coming to a halt. And when your thoughts come to a halt, your mind actually rises above this body and you fall asleep. Technically, that's called absorbing into sun. So when I learned that this is a part of the process, then my mind was encouraged instead of what it was first, it was just getting discouraged. So when I found out that this is a part of the process, all of a sudden it made my mind more peaceful because I didn't have that negativity in me anymore. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to learn more. So with Maharaj's Kirpa, eventually, because I got married into the family as well, uh, Pitaji was always teaching me how to get further upon this path. And through that, through doing Sangat, like it makes a huge difference. Your mind gets more encouragement through Sangat, through asking questions, through receiving answers through Gurbani. And then in that manner that mind's always going to be positive, chardi kala. And that chardi kala concept is something that we should have enshrined within our hearts at all times. So that was the topic for the day. If in speaking I've made any mistakes, please do forgive me. Akarwada ka tapal chuk maaf karne. Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh. By Ranbir Singh, we do have a lot of time, I guess. If there is any questions and answers that or questions that would be great if you take some.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So thank you to everybody who's joined, and mostly thank you to Bhai Sahib who's taken out time, being in a different time zone. Not even he didn't ask for anything. He didn't ask anything about the sangat. He was just happy to give up his time and do this seva. So thank you so much to Bhai Sahib. Let's make the most of Bhai Sahib's sangat. So if you have any questions, there's a lot of things that many people have brought up in the group, like about falling asleep again and again. So now there's somebody who can actually answer the question. So please don't be shy. You can put the question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, and Bhai Sahib can answer questions as per Gurmat. So who would like to go first? I think Gurpreet Singh.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜੀ
Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
Sat Sri Akal.
ਸਤਿ
Hanji.
ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਸਤਿ
You
ਸ਼੍ਰੀ
have a question? Yeah.
Do you have a question, Gurpreet Singh?
yeah
Hanji,
so yeah ਏਕਾ ਮਾਈ ਜੁਗਤ ਵਿਆਈ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ is are you guys able to hear me because I'm walking sorry
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ right that's Brahma Vishnu Mahesh is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, who or what is Ekamai?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So Maya refers to Maya. And from, okay, so when this play was created, the ultimate truth, Sach Paramatma, they had a thought that from one form I want to become many forms. At that point, they spoke Nam. When they spoke Nam, along with Nam from their mouth came air, water, and fire. So just I'm making the katha short here. And that air, water, and fire, one of the opposite is sampark hunda, so they get connected together. So wherever Sach is seen, all of a sudden there's this fog. Maya was created by Waheguru as their power to further create different parts of this creation, like, for instance, different levels of creation, where we talk about the khandas. Now, Maharaj says, Maya Mai Trigun Prasoot Jamaya, that Maya gave birth to the Trigun. So when we're talking about Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, in Gurmat, Maharaj also calls them Pawan Pani and Vasantar. Brahma is air, Vishnu is water, and fire is Shiv. From those three elements, Maya derived these different qualities. And from air came Asha, Blasha, Mansama, and Trishnama, all those desires and wants, whether long term, short term, basically where our mind gets stuck in the economics of life. That's called Rajoguna. That's also known as Brahma. And then Tamoguna was derived from fire, where negative qualities, lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, ego, gossip, slander, hatred, all these negative qualities came from. And from water, the qualities of compassion, humility, contentment, love, truth, those positive qualities came about from water. That's known as Vishan. So, eka mai jugat vyai tin chele pravan, ek sansari, ek pandari, ek lai divan. Now, eka mai jugat vyai. That Maya is actually married to the Lord. The Pati of Maya is known as Narayan, and Narayan is Vaheguru. Pati means husband. So, through their union, these three, in the form of the Triguna that we have inside, they came into being. Now, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh were also in the physical realm because their forms were created, but within us, inside this body, they exist as the Triguna. And that's why Maharaj says, Kaya andar Brahma Vishnu Mahesa sab opat jit sansara. That within this physical form of ours, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, they exist. And they're basically Rajogun, Satogun, and Tamogun. I hope that helps answer the question. Any other questions?
Bhai Guru, any other questions for Bhai Sabji? Please just feel free to unmute yourselves. Yeah, Susan Benji, please go ahead. Bhai Guru, Benji, you've got to unmute.
Yeah, you can write it.
Okay.
Okay. So the Gurmukhs here are asking, can you please provide more of your experience and further progression in relation to falling asleep sun during Simran? Okay, so when we start to practice going into that sun over and over again, going basically into that place where we think we've fallen asleep, our mind basically becomes really calm at that point because obviously there's no thoughts there. There's actually no awareness of yourself. So there's no ego there either. And there's no, initially, there's no knowledge of where we came from, which is this uh, rising above this physical body, and where we actually originated from, where we actually originated from the Lord. There's no knowledge of Ganta Pishan there. So initially, what will happen is you'll keep going into the sun over and over again. What happens is that as you start to practice that over and over again, your mind starts to hear sound inside its ears. A lot of people, they don't know what that is initially. Some end up thinking that their ears have gone bad. And those sounds that you start to hear inside the ears, they're usually sounds that aren't coming because of any sort of physical striking of one object with another. So it doesn't come from any sort of physical background. It's just continuous sound. And that's known as anahad. A lot of people start to hear the anahad shabds and then they think that their ears have gone kharab or their ears have gone bad. And then they'll go to the doctor will check the ears, and everything will be fine. And then sometimes they'll automatically assume that it must be tinnitus. The thing is that if it's not giving you any pain, you're able to sleep properly, then there's no issue. You can eventually start to listen to those sounds. But what's recommended upon progression of this path is that you do so much Guru Mantra Abhyas that you reach that point where you can do Rom Rom Simran, which technically, and we start off in a manner like first what we'll do is Sas Gras Simran, Sas Sas Simran. Sas Gras is where we're basically going, Why, Guru, Why, Guru, and we fall asleep. Sas is taking a bit step further into Madhuma Bani, where you're saying Wahe, but you're saying it silently, like you're whispering. And you want to then eventually take the entire Guru Mantra into Madhuma Bani. And you're actually training your mind to listen even more carefully to the Guru Mantra, which alleviates even further thought from the mind. And then the purpose is there, even Sasa Simran, to go into Sun again. When you go into Sun again, then there comes a point where your mind itself will say Waheguru inside without using the swas, or you'll start to hear those anahad shabd. Usually Gurmukhs will then guide you to do Rom Rom Simran or initiate that. So what happens is we start practicing Simran then with the Guru Mantra using our pulse or our heartbeat. And when we use our pulse or our heartbeat to do Simran, then our mind no longer uses the air and it starts to use that pulse and or heartbeat. And then you can actually feel, because as the heart pumps, uh, you can hear, for instance, like when we touch our pulse or we're feeling our pulse anywhere in our body, like all the nadia, they have some sort of a mechanism that is in line with the heartbeat. So what happens is when you are listening to the pulse anywhere inside your body, automatically Guru Mantra starts to play within your mind because you've basically trained your mind when you hear that beat to repeat the Guru Mantra. At that point, the mind has achieved what is a state where it can withstand the force of the Shabd, the divine word. The divine word is known as being ajar, that a normal person can't withstand that sound because it's so loud. And when the mind has practiced the Guru Mantra up to the point of Rom Rom Simran with the pulse and the heartbeat, then it gets that power to withstand that Shabd. So when Maharaj says ke Anad Mool Ram Sab Dekhya Guru Sabdi Govind Gajya, Maharaj inside roars, and that's at that time a very loud celestial sound. Those people that aren't ready for that sound, their mental balance can go off. Like they can become mentally imbalanced if they haven't done abhyas the right way. So basically, we go step by step safely, and then we get to that point where we're practicing Rom Rom Simran. We don't have any issues going into Sun. It's very easy for us to do that. And our regular need, our regular sleep at night is 6 to 7 hours. And such a person, when they hear Anahad Shabd normally, they're still able to fall asleep. If you're progressing upon that path, on this path like that, then it's going to be very easy for you to absorb into that Shabd. In New York, there was this one Gurmukh that was hearing celestial sound, and he kept going to my father-in-law and asking, saying that, "Oh, I hear this sound in my ear." And Pitaji told him that, "Okay, yeah, just do the Guru Mantra Abhyas for now." And then he's like, "No, no." He thought that Paisab didn't hear them, Pitaji didn't hear them, so he said it again, and they do Guru Mantra Abhyas. And then he did it a third time. He's like, "No, no, I hear this sound in my ear." And Pitaji's like, "Okay, stop." They're like, if you hear that sound in your ear, but you haven't done enough Guru Mantra Avyas, where we hear the sounds, we're at the dar, we're at the doorstep of the Lord. Now it's up to the Lord to open the door so we can go see Prakash inside. But if you haven't done enough Guru Mantra Avyas, you can listen to those sounds all your life, but that door will never open inside. When he heard that from Pitaji, he was the same Gurmukh was telling us this years later. He said that he learned that he has to do the Guru Mantra Abhyas. So it's important to take that Gurmantra to that point. So yes, this starts from falling asleep over and over again. So I hope that helps. On my spiritual journey, okay, Susan Court, on my spiritual journey, there have been many obstacles. Okay, so on this journey, they said they have many obstacles. When I feel there is some stability, then I go into low vibration. When another one comes, this makes it difficult to rise from low vibrations again, health-related obstacles and others. How to progress from them? Am I doing something wrong in regards to Simran or spiritually related? Okay, so you're not doing anything wrong. This is something that Kal uh, likes to put obstacles in our path. As long as you're going about everything safely. For instance, our spiritual journey couldn't stop our sleep at night. Like we should still have 6 to 7 hours of sleep, uh, especially as people that are living in households. We have a lot of responsibilities, and we need 6 to 7 hours of sleep. As long as we're not sacrificing our sleep too much and we're meditating on top of that, we're doing it properly, we're okay. Kal has different obstacles that he'll place in front of one to try to stop them from doing Simran. One is if someone starts doing Gurmantra Abhyas, starts meditating, sometimes he'll bring about sickness. Kisi nu flu ho gaya, kisi nu kuch ho gaya, koi other health related issues. If the person keeps doing Simran, they pass through that, issues are negated. Kal fails there. Then what Kal will do is sometimes Kal will make it that in the family that someone's job is lost or आर्थिक तौर ते तंगी आ जाती है like कोई गरीबी आ जाती है someone doesn't have as much income anymore. Kal will actually try and stop a person through that. When Kal fails at that, if the person keeps progressing, keeps doing meditation, doesn't give up, Kal fails at that, and then Kal does another trick where they'll try to through the five thieves, they will all try to create conflict within families. कोई किसी ना गल करदा है, कोई किसी ना नहीं करदा, i.e. like people stop talking to each other and stuff, they argue and whatnot when they are together. And the person that was doing the Gurmantra Abhyas, if they're so indulged in the world that because of all that, they just forget to, or they just give up doing Abhyas. And then Kal wins. If they don't, and they keep going, all that Kalesh comes to a halt. And there's peace in the family again. Then the last obstacle that Kal will place in front of someone is called the Gandharv Nagari. That's where someone's done so much Abhyas and they're becoming thoughtless, but Kal, either through someone or just through his own influence, Kal will try to get someone stuck in what's called the net of Maya or Gandharv Nagari. And it's also known as Mrig Trishna. And Mrig Trishna is where, for instance, Mirga is like a deer, a heron. And in the desert, when the deer is running around, it gets thirsty and it looks ahead and sees water on the ground. And technically, what it sees is just a mirage. And when the deer goes towards the water, there's no water there. It looks up ahead and it sees water further down the path that it was on, and then it runs towards it and never gets water. And then it then deer, like the heron, deer loses its life running around looking for water. So this Mrig Trishna is an theoretical representation that Maya makes, or you can say Kal makes, within the Akash Tat. within the etherical plane, which is where people start to see colors or different subtle forms that they then think that they've reached some spiritual level. Now, the thing is, Maharaj has taught us this, that where we are going, Satguru hai boheta sabd langavanahar, tithe pavarna pavako na jalna akar. Where we're trying to get to, where we are going, Guru Sahib has us cross the Pav Sagar through the Shabd. And on the other side, there's only Sach, Paramatma, and their Naam. There's no subtle or physical form there. Air, water, and fire, the elements don't exist there. If one has knowledge through Sangat, through Gurbani, then they can rise above the Gandharv Nagari. If not, what happens is that basically a person can get stuck within the Gandharv Nagari and they never get to reach the ultimate truth, Vaheguruji. Okay, so, but with your question there, just keep doing Simran and disregard any obstacle that God places in your path. And remember to do Simran safely with guidance. Okay, so question from Amandeep. Vaheguru, can you explain the difference between Anahad Shabd, Sahaj and Panch Shabd, the different sounds at which stage we hear them? Okay, so Anahad Shabd, today we were doing a podcast in the morning here in Edmonton as well. And there was an explanation of this. Anahad Shabd are those celestial sounds, unstruck melodies that we hear. We hear them in our ears, we hear them inside. Of those Anahad Shabds, there are different other Shabds that have been given particular names. One is the Sahaj Tun, then there's the Naad, and then there's the Tur, and then there's the Panch Shabd as well. So, because we're going to be limited for time, I won't be able to explain all the various sounds. Sahaj Tun is a very fine sound. Sometimes when you're just regularly within this world, people have this common experience that one of the ears, for whatever reason, just shuts, and you hear this long, tikhi awaj, really sharp sound. That is actually the Sahaj Tun. When you start doing Simran, Maharaj starts to basically attract you to that sound again. And you start to hear that Sahaj Tun. And then when you hear a higher, actually, I should say, a sound which has a more of a high bass, it's a lower sound, that's generally known as the Naad. That's as if a plane is about to fly, or sometimes people describe it as a train. And that's also continuous sound. The Sajatun eventually becomes the Naad. All the sounds, whether it's Panch Shabds, they all absorb into the Naad. The Naad then becomes a different sound, which is known as the Tur, the celestial bugle. The Panch Shabd, Maharaj says, Mastak Padam Dwala Mani Mahe Naranjan Trepavan Tani Panch Sabd Nirmal Vaja, Tulke Chavar Sankhaka Nagaja. That you can hear the beat of a drum inside. When we do Chaur Sahib upon Maharaj at the Gurdwara, even that Chaur Sahib has a very fine sound that you can listen to when you do Chaur Sahib. And that sounds inside us as well. Tulke Chavar Sankh is the conch shell. Kan is the sound of thunder. And Gaje refers to Paramatma roaring himself. And then there's other points where different set of Panchashabds will sound. That's when the mind is in happiness in front of God. Then there's other shabds described. Kar kar tal pukhavaj naina, mathe baje rababa. Rabab is one of them. And then Guru Gobind Singh in Bichitra Natak, they tell another set of 5. But eventually all those sounds, they merge into the naad. And you can hear them when you start to become thoughtless. But once again, you want to try to focus on those sounds as long as you've done enough abhyas of the Guru Mantra. What does a prakash look like? Are you able to see Vaheguru and describe, or is it a feeling of complete sage only? You can describe the prakash in a manner of, for instance, in Gurbani, the mind and the Atma, they both have the same prakash. It's known as Atmak Prakash. That's as if the prakash is like moonlight. Or it's also been compared to the light of lightning. And then Maharaj mentions that Baras Bare Ugve Sur Enes Vaja Anatur, that when you get to a certain point where you start to hear the Anahadatur inside, you get to that prakash where it's 12 times greater than the sun we see outside. Then eventually in Gurbani, Maharaj mentions 1,000 suns. And then it just goes limitless. So as you start to see Prakash, you get to that point where that Prakash just keeps increasing. And technically, you want to get to the Atmak Prakash first, which is compared to the full moon. Punya Pura Chand Akas, Pasare Kala Sehaj Prakash. Ad Antamad Hoye Rehat Hir, Sukh Sagar Mein Rame Kabir. But Kabirji there mentions that it's like the full moon all the time inside. And that's called Atmak Prakash. And then what happens is that when you focus on the Atmak Prakash, that Prakash actually merges into the Prakash of Vahiguruji because the Atma and Paramatma are linked at all times. And then you could get to that point. Sometimes there are Gurmukhs, they'll teach you that the Prakash is crystal clear, like a mirror. And then you can have that experience inside as well. So I think that's it for today. I've gone over time. I do ask for forgiveness for that. Maaf karna ji, karwa da kata puljik. And is this Samapti then?
Hanji Vagaji, we just to say thank you so much for your time. And Baisab
Hare
also
Krishna.
does a live stream once a week on, we will send the link on the GPMKC website. And I think questions can be posted as well sometimes.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested, we do have a YouTube channel. We have a couple of YouTube channels. One is the main channel from Moga, Gurdwara Pamran Kachao, which is the institute that was initiated by my father-in-law. That's GPMKC Live on YouTube. And then we have Edmonton has a bit of a separate one because we do Sangat at certain times. And that's called just the GPMKC channel. That's also known as at University of Divine Studies. So other than that, like you're welcome to listen there every Saturday and Sunday. We have programs Saturday morning, our time, which is in Europe probably going to be evening. Uh, at our time, 6 o'clock in the morning to about 8 o'clock Edmonton time, when we do 1.5 hours of Simran and then about half an hour of Katha in English. On Sundays in the evening at Edmonton time, which is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., we do 1 hour of Simran and we do a Katha Vichar in Punjabi. The one that's done on Sunday is usually via video. Any Gurmukhs that have questions, they can ask during any of those live sessions as well in the live chat. And otherwise, you can always email at universityofdivinestudies@gmail.com. If you ever want a phone number 780-710-4609. Hanji.
Okay, Bahut Dhanwad ji. Thank you to all the Sangat who's joined as well. And Guru Sahib's Kirpa will have Baisab on again at some point in the near future. Um, And I guess perhaps we end with just a couple minutes Simran and then close off the call. Somebody asked, can we join Canada dates?
If you mean like camps and whatnot.
Hanji, I'm not sure who's asked this, but perhaps you can ask me privately afterwards, or on the group, and we can figure out what you mean. I think Bhai might have to go soon.
Yeah.
Okay. So Hanji Vaigaji Samapti.
Okay.
Hanji.
So okay जी फिर वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह
Vaigaji Ki Fateh. Vaigaji. Vaigaji. So for any of the Sangat who are still on the call, perhaps we just finish with a few minutes Simran. And then we finish and Falafel. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So Sangatji, as Vaisab was taking us through the spiritual journey, the spiritual path, and let us keep the inspiration alive within our lives and keep on going deeper on this Simran journey, on this path, coming into Sangat again and again to keep that love and inspiration alive. And with Guru Sahib's Kirpa, just a gentle reminder that there is an upcoming camp in Bradford, 19th, 20th, 21st of December. So all Sangat are welcome. Transportation and accommodation can be arranged as well. And so Samapati at this point, please forgive any mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru